record. Okay, so I just wanted to give you all an overview of kind of what to expect for the rest of the semester, and then I'm going to turn it over to Professor Chichi because yesterday we just had a lot of fun talking, and so I want to make sure I can tell you about the final before we get to chatting. But a little bit about the final, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have not published this module yet. Whoops, I have no idea what just happened. I have not, sorry, give me a second to figure out my life. I don't know what's happening here. Just a second. Okay, my computer's being nuts. I apologize. There we go. Okay, so I have not published this module yet. So what you're looking at right now is not published only because I'm still waiting to post a part of it. So this is the part I'm working on right now. But what I want to tell you about the final is that I realize that finals week and finals in general are very wild this semester. And so I wanted to, honor your time and also honor your knowledge and also not have any undue stress. You all know I'm really I want you to learn and not stress as much as possible. So what we're doing with the final exam, there are two components to the final exam. One of them, I don't know if I can really call it a final exam, although it is just like all of the others cumulative. So first of that, you will have the Unit 5 review and checkpoint. So just like the previous reviews and checkpoints, the review will be worth 30 points, just like the other reviews, and the checkpoint for Unit 5 will be worth 100 points. Just again, same things as previous reviews and checkpoints. The only difference is that the review and checkpoint, instead of being 90% Unit 5 material and 10% cumulative, because we want to make sure that you have a good understanding of the class as a whole, the Unit 5 review and checkpoint are 50-50. So it's 50% Unit 5 material and 50% cumulative. So Unit 5, the new stuff for this will be cell cycle and cell division, and this week's material, which is inheritance. So that's sort of the new stuff, right? So cell cycle, cell division, mitosis, meiosis, and inheritance. That is the Unit 5 material. The cumulative is just like you've been kind of covering on the previous ones, everything we've talked about this semester. This week, I am excited to tell you this, so congratulations. This week is our last week of content. So the last lecture, what is our last lecture? Lecture 56 is your last lecture of Bio 181. So congratulations, you've made it, woohoo! So Unit 5 just goes through, again, cell cycle. I think that's Unit 12, or week 12, week 13, and week 14. So we haven't really had time so far to have a muddiest point on those. So that's what we're going to be doing on Thursday, and that's what we'll be doing next week, and that's what we'll be doing the last week of classes. So no new content for lecture after this week. It's all just talking and kind of answering final questions and making sure that you understand everything from here on out. So really low-key, stuff like that. The modules will be significantly smaller. You will have one more lab. So as you all hopefully know, several of you should know this already, we do have Zoom labs this week. So several of you have already met for lab. We do not have Zoom labs next week because next week is Thanksgiving break. So we only have classes, I think, on Monday, Tuesday. So no Zoom labs, but we will have Zoom labs the week following Thanksgiving the last week of classes. And again, that's sort of like a summative wrap up. There is no lab final. It's just like kind of working on some Punnett squares and some inheritance work. So some just applied problems for inheritance to make sure that you understand that. Because inheritance, the stuff we're covering this week and the stuff we're covering in that last set of labs, is some of the most important stuff that you'll get in this class, going into Bio 182, going into genetics, whatever else. So we just really want to make sure that you leave strong on inheritance. So that's kind of what to expect. So another thing I want to mention about this final is, again, I didn't want to overburden you. So the review for Unit 5 actually opens this Friday, November 30th, and it will close, sorry, November 20th is this Friday, and it will close on November 30th. So that's the Monday of the last week of classes. So you have like all of like starting this Friday and then a full week and 2 weekends to work on 3 attempts at the Unit 5 review. The Unit 5 review will close Monday, November 30th at 11:59 p.m. And then the Unit 5 checkpoint will open Tuesday, December 1st, and you will have until Sunday, December 6th to take 1 attempt at that. So again, just sort of like an extended amount of time, lots of time to work on the review, lots of time to do the checkpoint. And then the final ePortfolio assignment is a little bit different. So what we want you to do is use your previous ePortfolio assignments to sort of answer some more applied questions. This assignment, as the others, is going to be open book, open note. We want you to use your ePortfolio assignments. So for example, one of these questions will reference your elements ePortfolio submission. This will be, if I remember correctly, around 25 to 27 questions. And it will open this coming Friday, and you will have until Sunday, December 6th to work on it. So I'll have like a recommended kind of idea of how to work through that. You know, maybe two questions a day is a good way to get it done on time, but just a little bit more applied. And yes, you can work on it, come back and work on it more. You'll have the opportunity to do that. So again, these are the final assessments, a little bit more applied, but you have a lot. We're trying to make sure that you have a lot of time to focus on them, again, so that it's not just like, you know, Thursday, December 3rd, and, you know, you have to worry about only Bio 181, because I realize you have a lot of other stuff to worry about as well. So those will all open this Friday, and you'll have until December 6th. And we'll talk more about it as well as we go on with some more muddiest points and just lecture discussions as well. But again, I just want to assure you that this week is the last week of content, not the last time we're going to meet. I'm going to see you more, but the last week of recorded lectures and content. So, okay. So that said, I saw that there are a couple of questions. All right, Allie, I saw your hand go up, and then Rita, I saw your hand go up. So I think Allie, I saw yours first, and then Rita, you can go.
Okay, so I just had a question about lab. You said there is like a final week of lab. Will that be group work that we're doing, or is it individual?
Group work. So it is meeting for Zoom lab with your instructor.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Rita?
I was just wondering, so when I look at the Learn Smart, it says that we have like 2 more assignments that we have to do,
Oh, yeah.
but
You
so
don't.
that was all. Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. Actually, can you send me an email? Because I probably need to like delete that other.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We initially were planning on giving you a little bit of microbiology, but then again, the provost cut the last week of classes off. So we decided, let's not do that. If you want it though, we can talk about it. So are there any other questions about the final exam or 181 or anything like that? Before I turn it over, feel good? Think so? You think so? We feel good for right now. All right, cool. Well, with that, I am going to turn it over, like I mentioned, to one of my very favorite people in the world. I'm so excited to have her in class today. And anytime I get to work with her, honestly, is like my favorite thing in the world. But Professor Chichi is going to tell you a little bit about 182. I'm going to hang out too because we work together a lot, but I'm going to let her take over.
Okay, thanks, Dr. C. Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a good morning. Some of the names I recognize because you guys are in, I've got a few of you that are in my Bio 181 lab because this is the associate with my class. So some of the names on here I recognize, and then a lot of new names. So like Dr. C mentioned, I'm one of the primary instructors for Bio 182. So it's me and Professor Gillian, who you have probably seen in your pre-recorded videos. Her and I are we have Bio 182 in the spring. So I figured I'd start off by just telling you a little bit about me. So I am by training, I am a marine biologist, and most of my work that I have done has been centered around fish, primarily sharks. So the elasmobranchs, which include any cartilaginous fish, so sharks, skates, stingrays, as well as chimeras. And most of the stuff I've done, yeah, they're kind of cool. Chimeras are like this weird creature that kind of borders between a bony fish and a cartilaginous fish. They kind of have characteristics of both. They're crazy. I see like it's because I see Dr. C like shaking her head about things.
I mean, I've never even heard of, what did you call it again?
It's a chimera.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
which is like, also there's like a mythological creature known as a chimera, which I think it has something, I think that if you break down the word chimera, it has something to do with like changing or
something.
Yeah, like hybrid or something like that, which is why the name of them is for them, because they kind of have characteristics of like bony fish, which are things like tilapia or trout or bass, and then like sharks, which are something else. So anyways, but most of my stuff has been doing that. And I've done a lot of things like looking at their life history. So how fast do they grow? How old do they get when they reach sexual maturity? What their reproductive cycles look like, because that's all really important information to making sure that we conserve them, that we can protect those species. It's a lot of those factors are put into fishery management plans in order to make sure that your fishermen are only catching a sustainable amount and we're not overutilizing or overexploiting a resource. And then another thing that I was super into was also looking at physiology, and particularly I was interested in how fish respond to being caught by fishermen. So what are the consequences of being caught on a fishing line or caught in a fishing net? Because there are many species that get thrown back that fishermen can't keep. Either they're too small, or sometimes they're too big, sometimes they're not the right sex or the right species. So because they're not worth anything to the fishermen, or because there's regulation saying you can't keep that, they just get tossed back overboard. So a lot of the questions are, out of those individuals that are thrown back, what portion of them die? Because if we assume 100% die, and that's not the case, we could be underutilizing a resource. And then if we are assuming that, if we assume that everybody lives and that's not the case, then we could be overexploiting a resource. So understanding kind of those percentages and what causes mortality is something that I've done a lot of work into. So that's a little bit about me. And I could talk about fish and the ocean anytime you want. That's like my favorite thing in the world, hence my background. So a lot of the examples and things that I give in 182 are related to my background in marine science. So we talk a lot about marine things and kind of connecting them to some of the topics in 182. So on that note, now that you know a little bit about me, I'll tell you a little bit about 182. So this class is the second half of biology for majors. And we build on some of the concepts that you guys have discussed and learned in Bio 181. But in this class, you guys spent a lot of time looking at biology at a small scale. So looking at biology from a molecular and cellular level primarily. Now in Bio 182, we kind of look at biology in a broader scale. So we look at things that at an organismal level, we look at population levels, so how populations evolve over time, how populations grow and change, how populations of organisms interact with each other. So we're getting into like communities. And then we look at diversity. So those are kind of the main topics that we cover. So again, we're taking some of those more specific molecular cellular processes, and now we're kind of expanding out and looking at how whole organisms respond to their environment and interact with each other. So that's a lot of what Bio 182 is about. And as far as what the class is going to look like, Dr. C and I work very closely, so we want to make this transition for you as seamless and as easy as possible. So much of the format is going to be very, very similar. So you're going to have pre-recorded lectures that will be posted that you guys will be responsible for watching each week on a specific topic, very similar to what you have right now, with corresponding concept checks. Then we'll use our in-class time to kind of go over muddiest points and address any other questions, kind of what Dr. C did this morning. I typically every week kind of give my students an overview of what's going on this week, what they can expect, highlighting different things you guys should all be paying attention to, and that. So that'll be kind of the same general format. For lecture, you'll be evaluated very similarly, where we have, you'll have, I believe what way I'm going to work it is you'll have, this semester will be divided up into 4 units. So you'll have 4 unit exams, all of them kind of cumulative, the way that Dr. C does them, as well as some e-portfolio assignments where you have various ways of displaying some of the other concepts, like you guys did, I think, storyboards and infographics this semester, right? And then we'll be doing some of the same things, using a lot of the same platforms, as well as a few other ones. Like we'll get to use Google Earth and stuff like that for one of them as well, which I think is super fun. It's one of my favorite assignments. So lecture is going to look really similar. You guys are going to have the same type of textbook. So you're reading the Learn Smart, the reading assignments, the reviews for the exam are all going to look the same. My exams are a little bit different, as in I think you guys use the Connect software for all your exams. Mine will be through Canvas. You'll use Respondus Lockdown Monitor, or Lockdown Browser, no monitor, but just the Lockdown Browser for the semester. So that's kind of what that looks like. Do you guys have any questions about lecture? I'll tell you a little bit about lab too.
Feel free, everyone, just to sort of like ask question, raise your hand or unmute yourself or type in the chat box any questions.
Yeah, I have the chat box open too.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. Hi,
Yeah.
Professor Chichi. I'm going to be in your spring semester.
Hi, Allie.
I'm Allie. So I just wanted to make a comment. You have no idea how much better this makes me feel that it's going to be like so similar to Dr. C's class. Like that just makes all of my anxiety pretty much gone. Like, thank you so much.
Excellent. Good. We try. Dr. C and I try very hard to do things like that. So we're not reinventing the wheel because there is a little bit of a learning curve with all of this technology for sure. Yeah.
And it is fun. I think that, Angela and I, Professor Chichi, just calling, oh, I'm so sorry. Professor Chichi and I, we have, well, first off, out to the chat, I love you all. And you know that. I love you all. To Professor Gillen's class, yes. So as for like how the class is run, it will be very similar as well because it is a coordinated class. So similar structure. Angela, Professor Chichi, scrape my face off. Professor Chichi and I, which sounds very violent. That was not intended to. It's like itch it. There you go. But Professor Chichi puts a lot of work into 182, and she's the coordinator of it. So she, what she does has reach into all of 182. Yeah. And for whoever got me for lab, I don't think I'm teaching any of the labs. But we have exciting news about the lab.
Lab is going to be, so we have spent a lot of time thinking about lab and how we can improve those lab offerings for you. I know this semester it was a little challenging because we had kind of your group work that was going on in class. And then on top of that, we had some in-person activities, which probably had made things conflict a little bit. So we are gonna kind of change up this formatting, learning from that experience. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna offer some in-person experiences outside of your lab and class time. So we're gonna come up with a series of skill classes that will have several offerings, giving you a couple opportunities, either in the afternoons or in the evenings or potentially on the weekends, in order to participate in those in-person activities. Because let's face it, getting to learn how to read and communicate science, writing and verbally is all super important skill sets, and I will preach until the cows come home on how important that is. But let's face it, we all miss getting our hands dirty. So we're gonna try to do as much as we can to get you guys access to those types of activities and develop those skill sets. And I think what the plan is for next semester is that there'll be kind of dual offerings. So there'll be combination 181, 182 experiences. So if you missed one this semester, then you're going to have the opportunity to come in and participate in the spring. Along with
some exciting news about that. Professor Chichi, can I tell you?
Oh, yeah.
I was going to tell you about this after class, but I'll surprise you with this as well. This morning I had an exciting meeting with some it's like actually an accidental encounter. It turns out that Professor Chichi and I have been working exhaustingly, but also in parallel while somebody else is doing the same thing as we are, which is always nice to find out after the work is done. But some good news is that 181 and 182 are not the only classes that have this idea of sort of these really fun skills camps, experiential learning opportunities. We have a lot of classes that are interested in offering their students these same opportunities. And so I think that we're going to have upper division faculty from genetics and cell biology and even chemistry sort of participate in these experiences. So the reason I mention that is because when you come to these labs in the spring, if you choose to come to these labs in the spring, you'll have the opportunity to do skills that are applicable to both 182 and 182, 181 and 182, but also applicable to like genetics and cell biology. We'll also be able to work alongside students in all of those classes. So you can ask students in genetics, like, hey, how did this go? Like, what do you have? Like, what do you recommend about this? And also we're gonna have faculty like maybe Professor Chichi, but also like some of the genetics faculty, some of the forensics faculty. You'll have the way we're planning these or helping to plan these is that by attending these, you're not just attending them and saying, oh, I know how to pipette, but you're also able to not physically rub shoulders because that's not 6 feet apart, but kind of like rub shoulders from afar with people to get sort of more experience understanding who's in our department and what research is there and why these skills are important and stuff like that. So we want them to be fun, like, but also applicable. And so I think, again, like Professor Chichi mentioned, we realized that like having these skills camps at the same time as our scheduled labs was sort of a burden and kind of interrupted your ability to probably go. And so we want to make them more accessible, but also a lot more fun and interactive. So we're working really hard on spring labs for this reason, because one of our concerns was listing the labs as ASU Sync, but I don't want you to think that that means that that would interrupt any sort of thing. Like, actually, that's going to enable these to be a lot more accessible and a lot more, I think, a lot better, to be honest. So I'm so sorry, Professor Chichi, I just like took
Oh, you're totally fine. Actually, that's good, because when we were in that, we're like in another working meeting for like lab experiences. I was going to bring that up since there's only like a few of us on campus. But anyways, I was going to bring that up. So that I'm glad that somebody, yeah, I'm glad that you had a conversation with somebody about that. Beat me to the punch. Yeah, no problem. So I don't even know. I guess that's a little bit about what lab is going to look like. The rest of lab structure is going to look really similar to what you guys have been doing this semester in 181, where we'll have lab meetings that kind of meet in Zoom. You'll work in groups on some kind of using some data to analyze that data and then write up some reports. Again, I am a super advocate for scientific writing and communication, because regardless of the field you want to go into, whether you're going to be, you know, if you want to be the next marine biologist, or if you want to be a doctor or a dentist or a physical therapist or a forensic scientist, one of the best things you can do to set yourself apart is be a good communicator. So that is going to be that's a huge skill set. A lot of the lab skills, depending on the field that you go into, you will have the opportunities to learn those skills. Writing is one that I know everybody doesn't like. It's because it's hard. There's no doubt about it. It's hard. And it takes a lot of effort. And that's one of the reasons why we start now, is because the writing and learning how to communicate is not a one and done skill. It's like one that you learn organically over time, over long periods of time. Because every time you do something, you learn. If you learn one thing and then improve on that one thing, it's going to get better over time. So, and the only way to do that is to by keep practicing, and taking those things that you learn and then applying them again and retrying. So we try, Dr. C and I try to give you that foundation to kind of start that building, so you have a good springboard and a good foundation for when you get to these upper division classes where they expect you to know how to communicate science. So we want to spend a little bit more time breaking it down and talking about it, so that this doesn't come as a surprise, so that you feel prepared for those upper level classes. So I guess on that note, it's going to look really similar to what we're doing this semester. One thing that will be different is that you will have, and I'm super excited about this, we've spent a lot of time this semester and over the summer working with the communication lab. So we actually are really fortunate here on West Campus that we have a whole department and lab that is all, I guess it's not department, right? I don't know. A whole, yeah, is it?
I think I think it kind of is a department. I'm not
Okay.
really sure. It's like it's a lab.
Yeah, so we basically have a whole staff group of people that are here to support learning of communication. All types of kind of verbal, spoken, oral communication. And so we, as part of that, part of your labs is you will be giving a group presentation where you guys are going to pick a ecology-based article, preferably something, I think we're going to have everybody do something on global warming, on something related to global warming. And your job is to present the information in that article as if you were the researchers. So to go along with that and to build those skill sets, we've partnered with the Comm Lab or the Communication Lab, where you guys will kind of, along with the lab, will participate in a series of kind of asynchronous modules where they kind of go through and they show you videos and kind of break down the communication process, like from a technical standpoint, like what is communication? How do you become an effective communicator? What are things that you have to consider when you start to plan a presentation? You know, for example, if you were to give a presentation here in biology class, would be much different than if you went to like the YMCA and gave a general science talk to the general public. Like when I go to conferences and talk about sharks, I talk about them very differently than when I go to, you know, a middle school or high school class. So you have to like know your audience. So we talk a little bit about that, as well as some of the strategies of putting together a good presentation. There's a lot of effort in creating good PowerPoint slides that are effective, that help you deliver your information, because a PowerPoint slide should never necessarily be a crutch. It should be something that is enhancing the words that you're saying. So we do a lot of that. And as part of that, and the really cool part of this that I'm getting to is that not only do you get all of these amazing skill sets and we address a lot of oral communication, one of the cool things is that you also participating in these modules, and you'll get to work with a mentor directly from the Comm Lab. You will also get to earn a digital badge, which is super cool. So not only do you come out with like, you successfully completed, you know, general biology, but you'll also receive a badge in scientific communication, like foundations of scientific communication. And basically these digital badges go on your resume, and you actually get like, it's like a little sticker that on your LinkedIn resume or any kind of e-resume like that, you can put this digital badge in there. And basically the badge informs anybody looking at it that you have this set of skill sets. So this one kind of tells you that you've had training in scientific communication. So this is a huge like bonus out of this, that you also are not only like learning about biology, but you're also learning about communication, and you're learning about it in a way that you get credit for it in a way that translates to resumes and when you apply for jobs and things like that. So super, super cool stuff. And I'm really excited about that, which is going to be I think is going to be awesome for everybody. So that'll be something that's a little bit different that we do in the labs for Bio 182. The other thing that we have is that you guys did a lot of Labster labs. As far as I know, we're not going to have, I don't know if we're going to have Labster. I don't think we're going to have Labster for 182. So some of you are probably like jumping for joy. But we are going to have another kind of virtual lab platform, which is called Symbio. I love Symbio. I think the lessons in Symbio are really relevant to stuff that we do, and I think they're fabulous. So that's like part of one of your purchases for a lab was some access to these or one of your purchases for the class was you'll have some access to some SymBio labs. So there'll be a couple virtual labs that we do as well. And I think that's kind of my general overall summary of what Bio 182 looks like. Do you guys have any questions or anything like that?
Yeah, feel free to chat or unmute yourself or raise your hand.
Mark asked, are the CommLab videos similar to Crash Course? They aren't like that. As cool as that would be.
Hopefully in the future.
Maybe yeah.
I have reached out. I'm trying to get connected with, well, you all know how I feel about the Crash Course. I'm trying to reach out.
I love Crash Course.
Oh my gosh.
They're my favorite.
I'm trying. My husband's like, don't try so hard. He's worried about it. He should be. But
yeah, so they're not quite like that. They're more like they're embedded in Canvas, and they're like a series of, kind of like when you watch the lecture videos, they're like a series of lecture videos, as well as some discussion boards. They give you a lot of really amazing examples of what good communication looks like. A lot of TED Talks. We listen to some really interesting TED Talks. Like, they're all science-based, some very, very interesting ones that I think are, I mean, I watched them all, so I think that they're super, super engaging and interesting. So they will be kind of along the lines of that.
I haven't heard anything about hosting the bio study halls yet, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it, like I said.
Oh, are you talking like what they did with chemistry over on Tempe?
Yeah, I'm working on it. I got to work with Hank Green. I got to do it. It's like on my bucket list. Yeah, I want to emphasize another thing that Professor Chichi said, and I don't want to like oversell this. I mean, obviously you all know how I feel about Professor Chichi. I think she's incredible. You're going to get like an amazing experience in that class. I also want to emphasize that the Comm Lab, which she was discussing, is only at ASU West. And so I'm not a salesperson, but the certificate for scientific communication will only be achieved when you take Bio 182 at ASU West. So it's actually a grant that that Professor Chichi and I, as well as several of other faculty, are working on. And we're hoping to get it, it's just what you'll learn in 182, which is one of the reasons we're doing this. So one, we think it's like really cool opportunity to give you a badge in scientific communication because it's so important. But also, Professor Chichi and I are really involved in like trying to understand just like where biology education is going on a national scale. And if you were looking at like what the like national publications are identifying as sort of like critical skills coming out of this sequence of classes, and for students in general, it's reading science, writing science, and talking about science. And so we were like, well, we can talk about science, that's sort of our jobs, but who better to tell you how to talk effectively about science than like communicators? So that's why we're partnering with the Comm Lab. The Comm Lab is the largest of its kind. What is it, like on the West Coast or something?
I think so.
It is very specific to West. It's not only specific to ASU West, it's specific to like this side. I want to say it's like this side of the Mississippi River or something wild like that. But it is
it's something super unique that we have just here. So this is like an amazing opportunity that is not something that you receive really anywhere else. So it's even within ASU. So like we have this unique opportunity.
So it's a really cool thing. And I mean, I know I mentioned that a lot. And like Professor Chichi said, it's sort of like we work a lot talking to each other about what we want out of this class, but also talking to like 200 and 300 level course instructors and saying, what do these students need to know? And like Professor Chichi said, we emphasize reading and writing so much in these classes because when you get into cell biology or when you get into genetics or where you get into those classes, you will have writing and reading assignments and you'll just be expected to do it, and to do it well. So it's a less feedback. And so what we wanted to do in this class is sort of just prepare you for doing well in those classes. Like you're prepared to enter into those classes. And so it's just a really wonderful opportunity. I mean, we're obviously very biased because we think West is best, but I think that this really emphasizes a really unique opportunity that we have here.
Yeah, and I guess not only that, I get one of the other reasons why we emphasize it and we spend so much time, and I know sometimes it can be overwhelming. Like we give you assignments and we give you all of this material to look at. Like here's how you write an introduction, here's like examples and pages and stuff like that. But that is because those are things that you are going to be expected to do later on. And these are your resources. These are the things that you save from these classes, all of these instructions and details and, okay, I got to write an introduction. What do I have to include? How do I go about doing it? How do I break it down? Is that you can go back and you can look at all of this material and say, okay, here are my resources. Here's where I have to start. Because like I mentioned, it's not easy. Writing is a learning process. And I'm telling you, whoops. Hold on, that's my sister calling. I'll have to call her back. So that is, I remember what I was saying.
We're talking about just how writing is so important.
Oh yeah, I guess it's one of those things that, I mean, I am still learning how to do it. Dr. C is still learning. My husband, who writes grants on a regular basis, is still improving and learning. And again, it's something that you learn kind of by doing. And everybody you work with, every faculty member, every teacher, every group member, all kind of brings different perspectives and a different approach. And it's like picking up on all of those things is like how you learn to develop your own kind of style and path and process. Because again, these are skills that you don't learn overnight. They're ones that you learn by doing and doing them over and over and over again. And trust me, if anybody goes to grad school, you'll understand, because that is what you spend most of your time doing, is writing and rewriting and doing it again.
So much writing.
so much writing.
And then even after you get out of grad school, they're like, hey, write this grant. And you're like,
yeah, yeah, it never ends. I mean, my husband is also a marine biologist. He's here at ASU with us. So if anybody ever gets to take a class with Dr. Sulikowski, you guys read the skate paper earlier this semester. That's my husband. He's the one that wrote that paper. That was like when he was a master's student in grad school. So like forever ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Actually, no, I lied. That was during his PhD. I take it back. That one was during his PhD. But anyways, so I mean, this is like, how much proofreading and stuff that I do? And I'm not a particularly good proofreader because I'm very dyslexic, but it's easier when it's somebody else's work than my own. But I mean, this is like what we do. and I still do it. And he's like he's a big deal. So
yeah. Can we tell them what he's doing right now?
Oh yeah. So again, my husband, his name is James Sulikowski. If you like Google him on ASU, you'll find, he is Dr. Shark. That's what he was known. That's what like all the radio stations called him in Maine where we lived. Because he's he's an expert. He's definitely one of the top shark researchers in his field. I'll brag on him. He's really cool. I'm not gonna lie.
You are
He's pretty
cooler,
awesome. I know, but he's pretty awesome. And so like right now he's on a research trip, which I'm pretty sure is going to be a shoot for Shark Week, and that's all I can tell you because it's like top secret. I'm not allowed to tell anybody anything that goes on there. But he's been on Shark Week before, so if anybody sees old episodes that are like, I think one of them's called Tiger Beach, another one is called Shark Vortex. He was also on one where they went out with celebrities, like they had a group that went out with, who's the quarterback for Green Bay? Aaron Rodgers, right?
Oh,
Somebody help me out. I think it was Aaron Rodgers. He went out with a group, and then Lindsey Vonn, who's the Olympic skier, she went out with a group, and then James, his group went out with Gronkowski from the Patriots, the tight end from the Patriots. Yeah.
with the Gronk?
Yeah, he went out with the Gronk, and like my husband is like almost 6'3", so he's like a tall dude. He's like super skinny though. He's like a zipper. He's like skinny. That's like what my family refers to like tall skinny people as like zippers. I don't know what that's about, but anyways, he's like tall and skinny. But I have a picture of him like standing next to Gronkowski, and he looks like this teeny little guy, and I'm like, oh my god, whoa. Unfortunately, if you watch that episode, you will not see him because the day that they went out on the boat with Gronk, they didn't catch any sharks. So you only see him like you only see him in that episode if you know what you're looking for. He's like kind of in the background, but he didn't get to do his cool part. It kind of like got cut out because Gronk wasn't in it. So.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
But you'll see him, I think, in several episodes. I think this coming spring. So
but that's the top secret information that's top secret we are giving you all. So.
Yeah, and I can't spill any other information on that. However, I do talk about some of the stuff that he does in relation to a lot of ecology work. I talk about some of the old student projects that I've worked on just because it fits really well into Bio 182 stuff, and I love to get to talk about anything marine.
Because it's cool. I don't get to talk about sharks. I just got to talk about disease. I don't know what.
I know, but disease is cool. I mean, you do cool things. Also, disease is pretty cool. But I am also, so you get a lot of medical stuff from Dr. C, and I do my best, but I'm a ecologist by training.
I think we have a good balance.
Yeah.
So it's good. I think, yeah. Oh, Christina! Angela.
Leave it to Christina to open up this question. My goodness.
Already.
Oh my God. So I get this question every semester. One of the first questions all students coming from Dr. C's class ask me when they come to my class is whether I think viruses are alive or not. And are they living organisms? So Dr. C and I have debated this for a long time because my initial response was yes, because they can reproduce. However, I think I've been convinced that maybe they're not alive.
Don't say that. That means we can't argue it anymore.
I know, but for a while I was like, yes, but I had to look into it a little bit more. Because I understand that they don't fit all the criteria, but they do reproduce and they evolve, which are characteristics of living things.
They fit like, I can't remember, Christina and everybody else. Like, do you remember how many of the criteria they fit? They fit like half of them. Yeah. I think, when we did that assignment, it was like half of them. So
I think they're like they need a host, which I think is one of the big like opposite sides.
That's my problem with them.
Yeah, is that they need a host. However, there's like living things that require a host. Like they can't live without their host, and they're still considered living things.
This is true. I don't know. Maybe in spring, we just like a live debate about it.
is that there are multiple organisms that are parasitic that can't live without their host, but are still considered to be living things. So that was another one of my big arguments.
Did you see the comments in the
Oh,
chat?
children.
Yes, very much
so
like
funny.
That's amazing. Oh my God.
I can understand that. I have 3 stepdaughters too, who are like teenagers.
So you've got the story.
Now that it's more about like when they need things. It's not as so much as
Yeah. My 4-year-old is she's got the toad. She's got the toad.
However, I still feel like when I go home and somebody else can cook, I'm like, yeah, Mom, please cook for me.
Oh my God, I know. I love going
And I'm
home.
like a real adult now. And I'm still like, I go home and I'm like, I don't have to cook. Awesome. And I revert back to being a child.
I do that sometimes anyway. I'm like, Murphy, do you want to make like a marshmallow sandwich? That sounds great for dinner. Like, come on. Oh my God. Hilarious. Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, I think, yes, thank you for asking that virus question. I think that's what we should do in spring, Angela. I was thinking, so I don't know, you and Professor Chi-Chi and I can talk about this, but like one thing that has been really like, that I have loved about this class and you all has been just like talks like this. Like this is very characteristic for us. Like we have these, and I know Professor Chi-Chi mentioned that the way she wants to do class in the spring is something similar.
I totally forgot about that too.
We're like on Fridays, it's sort of conversations, and honestly, like I would as somebody mentioned, would we do that together? And I would honestly like if we could co-teach more, that would be my dream.
That'd be so fun. Oh my goodness.
So I would say let's just like make it happen.
I know. And I guess part of it is I'm hoping that on Friday, like Dr. C just mentioned, is I'm hoping on Friday because we have a little bit more flexibility since a lot of the lecture content is pre-recorded and you guys watch it. I'm hoping that we can have a little bit more free conversation. I'm hoping that maybe everybody would be into it. We could do like kind of show and tell, like maybe every other week or something like that. We pick a topic like everybody bring their pets today. Trust me, I have 2 like little dogs I have a pug and a Boston Terrier who I love to talk about. Their names are Bosco and Zoe. So I promise you'll see, and I'll promise you'll see like funny pug pictures because the winter pug's not funny. I have a shark costume. Oh, don't you worry. I have a shark costume. Oh, you have a shark costume? Oh, I think you showed me. I think Dr. C showed me your shark costume.
Izzy, I apologize, but you are famous. That was maybe my favorite thing.
That is amazing. And my dogs have shark costumes too. So like, and actually I just went to PetSmart because my stepdaughter sent me a picture. She's like, they have like ugly Christmas sweaters for dogs with sharks on them. And I like specifically went over there to get them and they only had extra small and extra large, which neither of my dogs are. So I'm going to have to purchase them online or something.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you'll have to get them. I know. We need to have these ugly. Yes. Oh, Allie, an optional for attendance. I think that'll probably be sort of like what you were talking about, like with Fridays will be sort of.
I think Fridays are going to be a little bit more optional. Like if we have to meet and finish up something, we will. If not, maybe we won't. Maybe we'll have
Angela, can you see the screen?
Of you?
Do you see Izzy?
No.
Let me see. Hold on.
Oh, I can see it. Love it. You know what's funny is my husband had when we were at the last university we were at, the university gave my husband's lab them. So all the undergrads would dress up in the shark costumes and like do Instagram photos for his class, like around the campus. I wonder if they're still on his Instagram.
Oh,
My sister totally just texted me and was like, thanks for hanging up on me.
like, this is Anna's time.
I know. I'm like, I'm busy. But I think if you like search, it's Sulikowski Lab is his like handle or whatever they call it for Instagram. But I bet you if you search up some old Instagram photos, you'll see his students running around in the shark costumes doing stuff. And I think for a while they had a YouTube video too.
Oh my gosh. That is
So it was I appreciate it. It was pretty funny.
that is the best. And I just love that you have it just on hand.
Yeah, I know.
That is my favorite thing.
It's like random shark costume.
Oh my gosh, I just love it so much. It is just my favorite. That is amazing.
No.
I gotta get one of those someday. That has been on my bucket list to be like, have Murphy be Katy Perry, and then us be the
I am like waiting for I'm waiting for the time where we all get to socialize again, and maybe there'll be a time where James and I get to dress up as a like some kind of fishing Halloween costume theme.
Yes.
I've always been interested in megalodons. Megalodons. So yeah, they're pretty. So we have, I mean, megalodons. According to National Geographic, they did like a whole episode about how megalodons still exist, which I don't think I believe. Because they also did one about how mermaids exist. So I'm a little skeptical about all of those TV shows. But we do have megalodon ancestors. So all great white sharks are like the modern day megalodons. And part of it, the evolution of that process is that megalodons, well, they were huge. They got to be like the size of a school bus, which is massive. So it's like over 40 feet long, big sharks. And the idea behind that is that they fed on really large mammals, so mostly whales. And then as whale populations declined, they didn't have that food source anymore. So they ended up getting smaller over time and kind of phased out. So megalodons probably evolved, or great white sharks probably evolved from megalodon ancestors.
That is amazing. I had no idea.
Yeah, all my cool shark knowledge. I throw it in there every once in a while with something that I can find. I'm like, oh, and by the way.
Honestly, you could talk about sharks all day and I would love it, because sharks, I've been obsessed with sharks for a really long time. I try every semester to have at least one day where we get to talk about sharks. So I'm thinking, I told all my students for 181 that the last week of school, I think I'm going to tell them that I'll have like a shark lecture if anybody's interested in. Yes. Oh, Sweeta. Yes. And I think Professor
were whales land? Yeah, whales were land mammals. And in fact, do you want to know what the closest living ancestor to whales are? Does anybody know?
Anybody?
So it's actually, no, not humans. It's actually,
although I feel like it most days.
Yeah, it's actually hippos.
Hippos?
Yeah, so like the ancestor that evolved into modern day whales also evolved into hippos. So they came from a common ancestor that split off, and then one of them became hippos, and then one of them became whales. So in fact, we talk about the evolution of whales and the fact that one form of physical evidence for the process of evolution is the fact that whales have a vestigial hip bones, where they have pieces of which was once a pelvis, remnants in their skeleton that haven't been completely removed, but obviously don't function anymore because those hind legs have gone away.
I think I remember that, like, yeah, that's actually one of the biggest things I remember strangely from my evolution class in undergrad was seeing a picture of a whale and the fact that they still have like the pelvis and like the femur. Is that it?
I think it's just the pelvis,
Just the pelvis.
like just the pelvic girdle part. And yeah, but they started off as like a four-legged terrestrial, almost rodent-y looking organism.
Wow.
But then evolved into whales. So like they began to spend like more and more time closer to the water. And I think some of the early transition phases is that one of the big differences between whales and terrestrial organisms is like where their nostrils are positioned. So the fact that the nostrils on whales were once like a nostril that was like in the front of your face, like a cat or a dog or something like that, then migrated up to the top of the head so that they could breathe. So
That is
cool stuff.
so this actually helps me a lot because, and you're gonna laugh, but I guess everybody should hear this from a biology professor, that to truly demonstrate the vast difference in like professions, when I imagined how a whale went from land to water, I imagined literally like a whale with legs and walking into the water and it being like, this is nice. Like that is how much of a microbiologist I am. I was like, how's that happen? Like a whale with legs?
Yeah, so it's more like it started off as a four-legged organism, and then they slowly over time, based on where they were in the world, and I can't exactly remember the ecology of what those early organisms were, where they were, but I have the idea of it is that these organisms began to spend more and more time in the water, particularly hunting in the water, which is where we get like they ended up developing like webbed feet eventually, and then the transition of the nostrils to the top of the head, and then the development of it probably started off where the tail became a dominant feature in order to propel them through the water, and then they depended less and less on those hind legs and the motion of that muscular tail, which probably resulted in like the reduction of those hind legs over time.
Are you seeing the crazy story in the chat right now?
No?
It's about a person who went on HGTV and then became a mermaid.
Wait, no, okay, so
No, you need to tell the story.
you mentioned mermaids earlier.
Oh, yeah,
and I
okay.
know it was a fleeting comment, but God, it got in my head. So in our high school had a teacher. She was our band teacher. Her name was Miss Britton. Now, you can talk a lot of crap about her. You can't say she was a bad band teacher. She literally was like led our band to national rankings, right? Like we performed at the Super Bowl with her.
Cool.
But she was also like crazy, and I don't say that to be demeaning to her or anything, but like she would walk around wearing her tiara because she was a beauty pageant winner one time, so she just kept her tiara with her at school and her scepter and stuff. But so apparently a bit after I left, but after I graduated, she got outed for embezzling like a lot of money from the band booster club, which their club was the most profitable of all of them on campus. So like it was a lot of money. And then she ended up home wrecking one of her students and taking her dad, and then running off to a Caribbean island, at which point, or to avoid prosecution from the embezzlement. And then she was on a Caribbean house hunting show on HGTV, and I swear to God, you can look it up. Like the episode's online to watch. But like the dude, it was just like her real estate agent was just like, oh, these spicy couple from Phoenix, and they're like, yeah, we just want to be near the ocean, and so they ended up buying like a little plot of land and building their dream house in Roanoke. No, not Roanoke. What was it? I don't know, some Caribbean island. But yeah, so now she's there and she teaches tourists how to swim with mermaid tails. That was her dream.
So that I've seen. So that's like a thing. Like you can purchase a mermaid tail online. That's
Yeah,
like
no, but she has like really like high quality ones.
yeah,
and
I've
like
seen
charges people to teach them how to swim with them.
Mm-hmm. I've
Like
seen
for
things like
like for Vegas or like for
that.
like
There's like a whole thing. There's a whole thing in Florida. Have you ever like look up Wikiwachi?
look up what?
Wikiwachi. It's like a natural springs in Florida, and they have a whole underwater mermaid show.
Wiki Washi?
Yeah, something like that. Wikiwachi.
I don't even know how to spell this.
I'll see if I can find it because I'm not sure either.
It's Roatan. It's becoming a mermaid on Roatan. Here, I'll link it. I'll link the episode in
Yes,
chat.
please do. Oh my gosh.
Here, this is like this is the website.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, to be honest, this sounds really nice to me. And in 2020, it might be the year I decide to become a mermaid. I don't have a crown or a scepter, but
Bro, it was crazy because she was also like just physically and emotionally abusive to all of her students. Like there's I know,
Good.
but like she was allowed to stay because she like won championships, you know, because no one wanted to like rat on her. But now like there's a whole subreddit called I forget what it's actually called, but it's like people just go there to post like horrible stories about Melanie Britton. Like there was one time, this is just a personal thing. She so like I don't know how long it's been since anyone here was in high school, but we had these orchestra shells, and they were big wooden shells that you would go around the shield or around the stage to make sure that the sound was projected out and not back into the wings, right? And I worked in theater, and so I was at that point the only one who knew how to put those shells up. And it was not a one-person job. I made it a one-person job, and I ruined my back doing it, but it was not a one-person job. And one day, she walked into my 7th hour where I was a TA and said, "You need to put those shells up." And I said, "I need to do what now?" And she said, "I have a rehearsal after school. You need to put the shells up." And I said, "Oh, you know that's like a 2-hour job, right?" She's like, "Get it done in 45 minutes." And I said, "Oh, okay." And so then I dipped and started doing the whole thing. And then she came in, only half of them were up, and then she just started like berating me for not having them up. And I was just like, dude, I don't get paid for this. This is a favor that I'm doing for you. You can calm down. And at that point, school was over, so I was allowed to say this stuff. Oh, yeah, but like she like yanked on people's hair and called them like fat idiots and blah blah blah. Like it was a whole, but she got championships, so she was allowed to stay. I guess embezzlement was the final straw.
oh my
And
goodness.
to whoever said she left for health reasons, that may have been what she said, but I swear to God, I know too many band kids who all corroborate the same story when asked independently. So
Oh my
So
God. That reminds me of my drama teacher in junior high. He hated everyone and was like the meanest person, and he made me quit like drama twice. He was the worst. And like 3 years later, I found out because he would always talk about his wife, who was the history teacher. He had an affair with the dance teacher, and then they both got fired. And then they told all the students they got fired for mental health reasons. And so a bunch of kids started protesting their firing. When really they got and no one could say anything because it was like a really like kind of religious school, so they couldn't say, oh, they had an affair. And I thought that was hilarious, and I was so I was happy. I'm like, ha, that's what you get for saying I was a terrible Disney princess in our play, mister. You're the worst. Ha!
How dare they say that?
we had our
Rude.
tech theater teacher. We ended up getting fired from theater. He was also a history teacher at the school, but we got him fired from being theater because he was a weird guy. And when I say weird, I mean like kids were afraid to put their back to him because he would sometimes give unwarranted shoulder massages and stuff like that.
Not
Yeah, no, it got to a point where there was one time my best friend for several years, we were working in the shop together, and the dude told us, I'm not going to name names because, you know, but dude told us to lift up a pallet, and these pallets are 8 foot by 4 foot plywood and 2x4 platforms. So it takes 2 people. And my buddy literally said, "Hey, you come on this side." And I was like, "But you're already over there." And then he looked at me with like worry in his eyes. And then I looked behind him and realized the teacher was right behind him and said, "Oh, okay, you just don't want to bend down in front of him. Got it." And so I went over there because he was afraid to do stuff to me because he knew that I would hit back. And so, yeah, it was a whole thing. So we ended up getting him kicked out of theater for safety reasons because he also ran an incredibly unsafe shop. Like the whole thing was a fire hazard from beginning to end. So I went around, took pictures, documented all the fire hazards. We like 4 different people wrote up individual statements and sent them to the principal. And also like it was weird to a point where like the office specifically told him not to come on our Disneyland trip because they were like, "Hey, you're weird. And also you're like just shouldn't be there, you know, like your AP kids are failing at a higher rate, so like focus your time on history." And so he was barred from going on the official Disney trip. So you know what this dude did? This dude filed independently for his paid time off for a vacation and then scheduled the same weekend going to Disneyland and got a room at the same hotel next door to our rooms. And then he just showed up. We were like, okay, this is awesome. We're going to have a weekend without him. And then we got to the hotel and he beat us there. And so he was just like, "What's up, guys?" And we were like, "What are you doing here?" And my teacher was like, "What are you doing here?" And then like pulled him aside, was like, "You need to get the hell out. Like, what? Yeah, so he was a weird guy. Sandra Day O'Connor, man. What's up?
So did
Yeah, it's hilarious. I went to the rival school to O'Connor, and my freshman year at band camp, like I was in the clarinet section. Each section has their own like skit or whatever, and we did Wizard of Oz. And so obviously the Wicked Witch of the West was Miss B, the band director at O'Connor. So when the Wicked Witch of the West came out, one of our section leaders that was like tall and had a similar like small petite like small like frame or whatever, she was like wearing a tight like little black dress and heels and a sash, and it was hilarious. That honestly we should have won that skit because it was hilarious. But yeah, our band directors were hysterical when she walked out dressed like Miss Britain. It was amazing.
I'm still not over you guys having us in lockdown for 4 hours because your school said it was our rival, it was our homecoming week, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna come to your school with guns." They did not mention they were paintball guns. They just said guns. And so we were on lockdown till like 6:30 p.m. One of their students ended up getting tased. It was a whole thing. Our rival was hardcore. We got tear gassed at our homecoming game one year because the fight got too heavy.
I heard about that. Mountain Ridge.
Yep.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I can't believe people from my school did that. It's insane.
It was hardcore, dude. It was the best.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
want to hear
so
more?
like
Sorry.
I remember.
sorry. So speaking of like creepy teachers, like my sophomore year geometry teacher, his name was Mr. Siliberti. He turned out to be a pedophile, and he was also like he was one of the football coaches, and so he went to meet this I think he was supposedly a high school boy online, and he went to
I think
meet
it was like
them.
13 or something, like really young.
Yeah, and he turned out to be an undercover cop, thankfully, and he got arrested. He didn't end up going to jail for whatever reason, but like, yeah, it's.
I think
I got
yeah,
a story.
I don't
I
even
got to
know.
tell.
I think he didn't go to jail because like it didn't go far enough that like they couldn't necessarily like prove anything like without a doubt that like I don't know, but it's scary because like you don't want to put a kid in a situation that they couldn't. I don't know. He didn't go far enough because there was an officer there, so that's why they couldn't book him or whatever.
I
Yeah,
got
for sure. It's
I
weird.
got a story of a crazy teacher because this guy started a cult. That's his deal. So he was the most ridiculous history teacher. He was the kind of guy to like go on long rants about how the Civil War wasn't about slavery and a lot of very not great